Still need to write a cadenza.
Still need to figure out how to have two oboes in the same room. Aloha and good Tuesday evening to you. Welcome to Tuning Up with Iggy and Dave, live from the stage of the historic Hawaii Theater Center. As you get settled here, we hope you're pouring yourself a drink from our new wine partner, Kaka'ako Wines, who's been so generous to sponsor these events and to partner with us. And I know we're enjoying over here in the few minutes before the broadcast got started here. So settle in and we'll get started here. I am Dave Moss, the Executive Director of the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra. For those I haven't met, hopefully 6 months from now, we'll finally be able to meet. Hopefully this doesn't drag on too much longer. But here with my partner in crime on Tuesday evenings, Iggy. Welcome.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you very much, Dave. Looks very appetizing. Those dishes look better and better each week. We're so lucky to be here.
Absolutely. Our little oasis.
We're very lucky to welcome our guest for tonight, Anna Lenhart.
Thank you.
You're the principal French horn player of the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra.
Yes, I am.
And pleasure to have you.
Oh, it's great to be here.
We were just talking that the last sighting of you that I had was a few months ago, and back in March, and
March 15th, I think.
And things were starting to get bad, but we didn't think it would be that bad, right?
Yeah, you were still talking about your plans for the summer to go play in Europe, and I was just like, good luck with that.
The world had other plans for us all.
And Dave, you were still March 15th. Where were you?
March 15th, I was here, and we are not able to see us currently, I'm hearing. So we'll work on that for those who might be able to hear us but not see us.
I broke the cameras?
No, you didn't break the cameras. So March 15th, I was here.
You had just gotten here, right?
I had been here for 5 days, and we were just about to shut the orchestra down. Little did we know that it would last as long as it has. And, again, with a stay-at-home order here, we're kind of back in the place where we were in March, but with a lot more knowledge about how we can safely return to work, and plans are really in the works for an exciting fall here and an eventual return to in-person audiences where we'll get to all see you, not on a computer screen. So,
how are we doing? Can people see us?
Great. Well, and you can communicate with us tonight. This is a great time to announce this. Join in the conversation by texting your questions and comments to the number on your screen there, 808-528-0506. Ask us questions about the horn section, about horn repertoire, all of those things. The season to come, and we'll have a quiz as well as we get settled here. So, how are we doing? Now it's fine. We got a message that it is fine, and it's from my wife. So
very trusted.
We know it's fine. We know, yes, a trusted resource.
If she can recognize you,
yes,
you're in good hands.
Absolutely. Well, here we are on Tuesdays. We come together to talk story about the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra and kind of share insights from backstage or off stage, and prepare to kick off for our 8 p.m. broadcast tonight, taking us back to January of 2020, when the world was a different place, for a program entitled Mostly Mozart. And I will tell you, there were a couple pieces of fan mail specifically about this performance that I received when I got here, and apparently it didn't have quite enough Mozart for the title. So what do you think of that?
It had a lot of mostly.
It had a lot of mostly. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the program.
The first half was Mozart.
It was.
Yeah.
So we had the overture to what was it here? Abduction of Seraglio, and we had Mozart Piano Concerto number 24, and the program closed with Shostakovich Symphony number 10. So there's it's not a coincidence. Anna is here with us tonight. There's a lot of horn rep in this program, and it's just. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
There was a lot of colors.
A lot of colors.
A lot of contrast between Mozart and Shostakovich. But the reasons why we wanted to have you here, Anna, is like Dave said, some very clear exposed horn calls throughout the program. And we talked about Mozart earlier before we started tonight because the plan is to feature yourself as a soloist in Mozart concerto. So before we talked about the two Mozart pieces, what is the relation between Mozart and the French horn? Why are there so many pieces that Mozart wrote for the instrument?
Well, he actually had a friend in Vienna who professionally was a cheesemaker, but was a hobby hornist, and they were really good friends, and so Mozart kept writing concertos for him. And Mozart liked to mess with this horn player. He would write silly notes in the score like, "You sound like a bleating sheep," and like, "Oh, not this again. I hate this trill." And so he had lots of fun. Like Mozart, his music, a lot of it is very joyous and lighthearted. In the fourth horn concerto, which
is what you're intending to play?
Yeah, which is the one we're playing in December, COVID permitting. Mozart actually wrote the score in lots of different colors of ink. Like he would have one measure in green and one measure in red and one in blue, just to kind of like throw his friend Leutgeld.
So he was a jokester, and a lot of the pieces by Mozart are in major keys. I believe the overture of Abduction of Cyrano, is in the major key. However, the piano concerto, and which, by the way, our two soloists this evening are conductor Carl St. Clair and pianist Norman Krieger. And they both have been part of the HSO family for quite a bit, and it's always a pleasure to welcome them back. Pianist Norman Krieger actually has been in Hawaii many, many times, used to have a chamber music festival. I know pretty much all the piano teachers in these islands. But back to the major keys, this concerto, number 24, is actually in C minor. And that reminds me when I was very young, when I was, when my mom would start playing recordings of classical music. I remember being hooked on Mozart Symphony number 40, which is in G minor, and also this piano concerto, and because I've always found the minor colors of Mozart music very touching. And so perhaps why this concerto is so popular, the beginning, it's sort of broody, mysterious, a little bit. The valley has these really things that no other composer sometimes can write. I think it's just typical of Mozart touch. It also reminds me of another, I'm going a little bit astray, but there's a Mozart sonata for violin and piano, the E minor. And I heard that E minor, there's no other work that Mozart wrote that's in E minor. It's only this violin sonata, violin and piano. And the word is that maybe he was in Paris traveling, and he learned that his mother had passed away, and maybe that's why he wrote it in E minor. Anyway, so two beautiful works in the first half, the Mozart number 24 piano concerto, and the Abduction of Cyrano right before that.
Well, and while we're on Mozart, I think this would be a good opportunity. Now that we're starting to get some questions here and some comments about our show here tonight, that I think we should have a quiz.
All right.
And for those who missed it at the beginning here, we have a wonderful new partnership and sponsorship with Kaka'ako Wines, a new company, local company here in Hawaii, in Honolulu, who is doing delivery. And you don't even have to go to the grocery store or risk going out in a mask. Kaka'ako will bring you wine. And so, as a prize for the winner tonight, this is a hard question because it's a great bottle of wine, a 2015 Ennio Montepulciano, which will be delivered to you. We have a quiz question. So it's two parts, and we need you to get both of them. And the first one that texts the answer to 808-528-0506 will get this wine. So, and I think you two should play along as well. So, two parts. At what age did Mozart write his first opera? And in what language is the opera sung? So staying on the Mozart topic, do you think you have it?
Well, in an effort of full disclosure, they've already asked us that quiz, and I was totally ignorant, of course. But Anna knew about 75% of the answers. The answer.
Yeah, yeah.
I was off by that. I don't want to steal it from the audience.
Well,
So,
let's see the answers
What
that
is
we
the
get.
number again?
So the number is 808-528-0506. It's on your screen as well there. At what age did Mozart write his first opera, and in what language is the opera sung? Yeah, and as long as we're asking a few questions here, I want to mix things up a little bit this week and get to know Anna and get to know
Yes,
Iggy.
we haven't talked about Anna too much.
No.
There's time.
Yeah, there's time. There's time. So we're just going to do four quick questions here, short answers. We'll go. Anna will answer, and then Iggy. Favorite board game?
Ooh, I have been on a Settlers of Catan kick
Oh, wow.
during the
A
pandemic.
lot of time. A lot of time. Iggy?
For my friend, I will say Wingspan.
Wingspan. Okay, I'm going to have to look at that one up. All right, second question. Poke or shave ice? Have to pick one.
I'll go first since she went first. I'll go with Poke.
Okay.
Well, I'll shake it up and go with the shave ice then.
All right, great. Favorite movie?
Okay, if you want to go serious, like I want to show everyone how well I know my movies,
Fast and Furious.
I would say Deer Hunter.
Oh.
But if you want to go on the lighter side,
Yeah.
I will say Back to the Future.
Oh, great. Yeah. I think we all
Ooh.
like to go back to the
That
future
has
currently. Yeah.
Great music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying
Horn
to.
music.
Yeah.
I know. I got to play it live in
Okay.
LA.
Yes.
Yeah, with the composer directing it. So
De Florentier. Yes.
Sylvester.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sylvester. Close.
close.
Yeah.
Ooh. I mean, Amadeus was a huge hit when we did it.
Oh,
I
okay.
love
Bring in
Amadeus,
Mozart, yeah.
but honestly, if I'm sitting around with a bunch of friends and no one can make a decision, my go-to is Megamind.
Megamind.
Megamind. It's a DreamWorks cartoon kind of for adults, just because everyone finds it funny and everyone leaves feeling satisfied.
Yeah.
What about you, Dave? What?
Oh, we're turning this around on you
Yes,
now. I
I'll
see.
turn the table.
My favorite movie, and is Top Gun, actually. Kenny Loggins, like the opening. And I hear the orchestra has played with Kenny, right, at the Waikiki Shell?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think we've learned a lot about each other through these three questions. I'm not even going to go to the fourth. So,
Why don't we go to Anna?
So
yeah, absolutely.
do I get to win the wine, or did someone come in with the
Well, we
Mozart
haven't
question?
heard yet a winner, but we actually have some questions specifically for you from our audience here.
Oh dear.
So the first is, how old were you when you decided on horn? Maybe what led you to choose the horn? And what is it about horn music and why?
Well, there's kind of two parts to that story. So in my middle school, I grew up in Rexburg, Idaho, and in middle school, all the kids were required to take either band, orchestra, or choir. So music was required, which I think is great. I have two older siblings. They both went into orchestra, and I did not want to be like them, so I decided to go into band.
Were your parents musicians?
No, my mom, she has her minor in organ performance, but then went on to get her MBA, and my dad is a history professor. So, no, there's no...
So you went to band instead of...
I went to band instead of orchestra, and all my friends were signing up for clarinet, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just do that with my friends. And then the band director's like, ooh, we really need horn players, so if you sign up for the French horn, it's free rent. You don't have to pay. And I'm like, meh, my mom would like that. And so I brought the horn home, and then it turns out my dad actually was an amateur horn player. He had played it in high school as well, but I mean, he was just busy with 4 kids and being a history professor. He hadn't brought it out at all during my childhood. So I was trying to be so different by playing the French horn, and then turns out my dad played the French horn, and my mom's cousin actually played with the Seattle Symphony of French horn. So I guess it's in my blood.
It's, having grown up in Europe, you always marvel as the band culture in the US. And I don't know how that started, but the wind instrument, the band in elementary school, in high school it's such a tradition and heritage. And that's why you have so many strong wind players. I don't think maybe in England, but I know for sure in other parts of Europe it's not as strong. I don't know if you had any comments on that. Also, the technique. I wanted to ask you that is an oboe player, a clarinet player, maybe a French horn player. They play sort of differently in Europe, don't they?
Yeah, so my particular brand of sound, this also goes back into why I love the French horn, so bear with me on the story here. But when I was a kid, we had, the VCR players where we could, rewind and fast forward. And I would always bug my siblings by like rewinding and rewatching a section of movie like over and over and over again. And I didn't know why I loved those sections. I just really did. And then as an adult, I went back and watched some of those movies. And every single time there was a part I loved, it was a horn solo in the soundtrack. So my sound, I've been told, that I have a very like Hollywood-esque sound, because that's just what I've been listening to my whole life. I love the soundtrack, the big Hollywood horn, the big, full, rich sound. And I think that's also, it has its own name, Hollywood horn, but it's also American
And it's
style.
in so many movies, Jurassic Park and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
We have another question, and maybe this is for you both. Why is it called the French horn?
That is actually a misnomer. So the French horn is actually German. And the reason it's also that weird shape, it's circular, is because it used to be, in German it's called a Waldhorn, which means forest horn. So it used to be an exclusively outdoor instrument. It's circular, so you could wear it on your arm while you're riding your horse around. And then, when you see the fox, you can, da-da-da-da-da-da, and let everyone know. So it was called the forest horn. But then, when it was notated, it was written as F horn, because we play in the key of F. And someone thought like, oh, that must mean French horn. But here's another just funny add-on. So the English horn, the reason it's called English horn is because it was abbreviated A-N-G horn, because it was angled, but it's actually French. So the English horn should be French and the French horn should be German.
so I hope everyone's taking notes.
I feel like I've been lied to.
Deception's everywhere.
Deception everywhere. So you talk about these horn calls, and that's a piece of the repertoire that we'll hear later tonight, right? There are some very iconic horn calls in the repertoire. Can you talk about those a little bit for us?
Yes, so in the Shostakovich Symphony, in the third movement, Shostakovich has this returning motif. It happens in the horn 12 times. And it was always sort of a mystery. People didn't know what this motif is supposed to mean. And I guess I should explain that a motif is just a musical idea that's repeated over and over again. So like in a soundtrack, when you hear da 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 da, someone in Star Wars is using the Force. So the motif that was in Shostakovich is dum bum 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 bum, and people were trying to figure this out, like, what is this, and then someone figured out that it was E la mi re a. Sorry, I don't have perfect pitch, so if you in the audience do, I just ruined everything.
It's transposed.
It's transposed, yes. But so that meaning, E, La, Mi, Re, A, Elmira. Elmira was one of Shostakovich's composition students, and he depending how you look on it, either had a very romantic relationship or had an affair, depends which side of history you go on. So like, oh, it's like his love theme, it's Elmira. So that's the nice horn call.
And there are a lot of stories about this symphony, number 10. It was finished or premiered right a few months after Joseph Stalin died. And of course, under the regime of Stalin, Shostakovich was very oppressed. And there's violence in the symphony as if he's just unleashing all the pent-up emotions. Especially the second movement, which is very, very short, but very brutal and very violent. But there's some controversy because some people say it has nothing to do with Stalin, but some other people say, no, this is Stalin beating up on oppressed people. Mm-hmm. So this is one story. Another one, which is not a story, just a fact, you mentioned a motive, the Elmira motive, is Shostakovich is known to have his own signature, right? D-S-C-H, so D as in D, Re, S, E flat in German. So that's the S-C-H is his signature, is the Dmitri Shostakovich. And so towards the end of the symphony, you'll hear pom, 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 pom. It's finally he's signing his name, and he's triumphed over Stalin and the regime. So,
and you bring that up, and in the coming weeks here, one of the pieces that we've programmed for another live stream event is actually the chamber symphony from the string quartet that has that same motif in it. And so it goes from the symphonies to the chamber music work and kind of travels around. It's a thread that he weaves through all of his compositions.
Absolutely, and sometimes it's disguised, sometimes it's not, but every work from every composer, I think, is somewhat autobiographical.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll definitely hear it strongly at the end. I remember that because the beginning of the fourth movement is just like really quiet, and so the French horns, we just kind of like sit there and count measures. And of course, enjoy everyone else's beautiful playing.
Beautiful clarinet solo.
Oh yeah, that's
at the beginning.
So amazing. And oboe solo.
Oboe.
But just the Shostakovich signature at the end, it's really high and it's really loud. So it's just like I can feel his pent-up emotions while I'm playing it because it's just pounding. Bam, 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 bam. So it's really fun.
It's amazing. Before Dave has a question maybe for you, you mentioned Hollywood-esque sound. And I remember when you took the audition here, and I was behind the screen, I was on the audition committee. And we all agreed that you had a really beautiful sound. And that was something that really stuck with us. As you came as a principal player, how, I know as a string player, because I'm asking because I play violin, so it may be different, but how is it to kind of balance your section as a wind player and to find, because the horn section is very, very important, and it's not like you have, it's not like the violins where you have maybe, 6 violins playing the same note. You're all very exposed as, so 4 different parts, but you have such a great responsibility. And I just find it, was there an adjustment period for you to kind of absorb yourself with the symphony, or was everything very clear from the get-go?
Yeah, there's always kind of a learning period with different players, because different players have completely different sounds, and especially intonation, because the horn section is kind of its own choir. Every player has their own part, so it's like we have soprano, alto, tenor, bass in our own section. On a side note, I never understood in youth symphony why the string players cared so much about seating. I'm like, who cares if you're 3rd or 4th because you're going to play the same part? But I don't know, just never made sense to me, because like in French horn playing 3rd and 4th is just completely different. So yeah, there's always an adjustment period of, and like in my head, I always know like the strengths and weaknesses of all the other players, and even my own strengths and weaknesses. And there's this very interesting position in a horn section called the assistant. And so I'm not sure if everyone knows, an understudy in like a Broadway performance. It's someone who, learns the lead part with you, and if you get sick or something, they take over. But the assistant is like having an understudy on the stage with you. And the reason we have that is because horn playing is really exhausting. I mean, think about putting your lips like in between your teeth and a hard piece of metal for 2 hours straight. Like, it hurts. So the assistant is there to play, to kind of give me a break. So for example, like if you're playing a piece where there's a big horn solo, like ba, 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 and then, the next 5 minutes is just up, dig it up, dig it up. My assistant will play the afterbeats for me. So it's really, the strength of a principal horn player is really in how much they can trust their assistant, because there's all these times, even with like Dvorak cello concerto, when I need to take a breath and there's nowhere to take a breath. So I can trust my assistant, well, they call it dovetailing. While I'm holding a note, he'll come in and jump in and play that note, and then I'll come in again. And so it sounds like one cohesive sound, even though it's two players mixing in. So shout out to Colton, my assistant. I get really nervous every time he has to play a different part, because I'm like, I'm so used to you. Yeah. I know how you play, and we work so well together. So
yeah.
Very, very interesting. I didn't know all those aspects of horn playing.
It's that's very interesting. It's something that you don't necessarily recognize from sitting in the audience. The complexities of what's going on there. To be cognizant of time here, this has really flown by tonight. We really needed an hour, but I want to shout out to someone who joined us from Washington D.C. tonight that stayed up to join us. Thank you for your support. It's late there.
And my sister.
Yeah. Well. Oh well. And it's a good transition actually. There's a question of why we're all wearing red and why the theater behind us here is lit up in red. And today on September 1st, our entire live entertainment industry is bringing focus on the Restart Act, which is two different pieces of legislation that are hopefully going to make it to the floor in our Congress this coming week as they head back to work, that would support live entertainment here in Hawaii and throughout the nation. We've been dark since March. It's been very difficult for the musicians. It's been very difficult for the support crew, the stage hands, the videographers, the designers, all of those people that you don't necessarily think of when you hear an orchestra on stage. And this, here in Hawaii, the arts and culture sector contributes $2.5 billion to our local economy. That's not a small number with what we're going through at the moment. And live entertainment employs over 12,000 here locally. So this extended intermission it's difficult, and especially for those who have made this their career. So we're asking you, if you have the time and the interest, to reach out to your official elected representatives and tell them that you support this next Restart Act here, that we can help ensure that live entertainment will be here when we can all safely gather again here at Hawaii Theater Center. So appreciate your support in that. And of course, we have to give the winner. We have a winner who is Cheryl Sohet. Do we know? Sohet.
I might know her.
You know her. You know her.
Put you on the spot. You better know her.
She's with the Symphony. So she has graciously said, and I'm taking this from our team here, that she has should give the bottle to the next winner, who is Mr. John Smith. So do we know Mr. John Smith?
Are we sure that's not just like a pseudonym?
I trust that there's a John Smith out there. Thank you, Cheryl, for tuning in. I'm sorry I don't recognize the name. I can't wait to meet everyone.
She's the boss.
Okay. Well then. Yeah. Great for joining us here. Thank you so much. And as we get close to the top of the hour here, when we head over to HPR2, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Kaka'ako Wines. Go on to their website. I think next week we're looking at a Pinot Noir that I'm particularly excited about. Our wonderful plate here from FET here in Chinatown. Thank you for your support. The Halekulani Hotel, our Masterworks sponsors. Hawaii Public Radio for tonight's broadcast on HPR2. Gregory Dunn of the Hawaii Theater Center and the whole team here. Donald Sonoda of 808 Video Productions. Thank you, Anna. Really appreciate everything. And Iggy, take us out.
See you next week.
11 in Latin.
Mahalo.